Hello everybody and welcome to George's Life. It is my new channel. It's just sort of my way of expressing what I've been through in life, my life experiences, that kind of thing. So I thought today for the first video I would do more of like a how did I get cancer, sort of how did I find out, what were my symptoms, sort of that kind of thing. So you know, if that's your kind of thing, then stick around and watch the rest of the video. So thanks guys. So I'm just going to take you back to where it all started really. It's about early summer 2018. I just sort of started getting like an obstruction sort of down my gullet. So every time I'd eat a meal, sort of something would go down slowly, and it wasn't coming back up at that point. It was just sort of going down quite slowly. Now it was something I'd noticed, but I have had sort of issues in the past with just swallowing food. You know, acid reflux, that runs in my family, so just kind of thought it was normal, but just kept my eye on it. And after a period of time, it just didn't seem to really get any better. So I think I went in about July. I think I saw the first doctor. I went and I sort of explained my symptoms. You know, I'd had more symptoms as well. I had quite a lot of weight loss, which wasn't really my thing because I love food, so you know, I didn't really have that issue. So it was all a bit alarming, but you know, it never really rung too many alarm bells, not to the doctors anyway. So I went back to them and they said to me, it's probably just an infection in your stomach that can make things come up quite quickly and quite easily and sort of make the food not go down as nicely as it should. And I thought to myself, great, you know, I haven't got anything quite serious, quite an easy fix, you know, and they prescribed me lansoprazole. So lansoprazole is for acid reflux, and it actually just sort of prevents your body from making excess acid for it to obviously come up your gullet and you feel it. So I started on that and it didn't seem to get any better. I'd been on it for about 2 weeks or so, and just nothing really got any better. So I went back again and I said, you know, the exact same issue. I was having problems swallowing, all the weight loss, lots of fatigue. I was so tired, it was beyond belief. I mean, I was working long hours at work. We were busy at that time. There was lots of overtime going on, but you know, I was sticking in, I was working, but I was so tired considering the amount of sleep I did get. I would come home from work, probably at about 6 o'clock at night. I would have my food and then I'd probably go to sleep by about 9. So I wasn't staying up really late. And you know, I used to wake up at probably 5 o'clock in the morning to get into work for 6. So sort of, I would do 6 till 6 at work, or you know, 6 till 5, that kind of hours. So a long day, but not the longest kind of day. But I would just come back. I would just be so tired for the amount of work that I'd done, and it just, something wasn't quite ringing true. So, you know, I went back again for the second time, and they said to me pretty much the same thing, and they changed it to ranitidine. It works in the same way as lansoprazole, but slightly different. I'm not entirely sure what the actual difference is, but it didn't work. So after a couple of weeks, still went back again with the same problem. Bearing in mind, all of these doctors are looking at my notes. They know I've been back, they know why I've been back, and they know what I've been prescribed and suggested to do. So after the lady told me that I was anemic and that she was going to give me these tablets for 3 months, I said to her, men aren't supposed to be anemic, so you know, why am I anemic? And she said, I don't know why, but it's normally because you're bleeding from somewhere. So in my head I'm thinking, right, I've come back 5 times and I might be bleeding from somewhere. Does that not call alarm signs for you to do further tests? I mean, I have been to see other doctors and they have said to me if I was to give them the same symptoms that I did, I would have had an endoscopy very quickly. But obviously they never gave me an endoscopy. So after that, a day or 2 had passed and my dad and I, we still knew something was wrong. Something wasn't right at all. And we'd trusted the NHS doctors to do their thing. And unfortunately, they didn't. So we went privately, and within 2 days of being privately seen, I had my first procedure, which was called a barium swallow. Now that is not a nice procedure. It doesn't hurt, it's not invasive. You just stand there basically and you open a can and it cracks just like a normal Coca-Cola does. Now inside the can is like a chalky liquid. It's quite gloopy, it's quite thick. Think of a really thick milkshake, something like that, but it's got like a chalky flavour to it. It's very white and gloopy. It actually tastes kind of minty. So what I had to do was I had to take big mouthfuls of it and gulp. So as I swallow, they take a picture of the fluid going down my gullet. So that kind of gives them an idea if there was any obstructions and stuff. Now, when I had that test, I didn't get given any results back from that because I knew that a couple of days later I was going to have an endoscopy anyway. Now, on the Wednesday was when I had the barium swallow. So they'd obviously seen something on the barium swallow, but they never told me because telling a 19-year-old kid at the time, there's a big mass inside your body and it's obstructing the way that your food goes down your GI tract. It's not the kind of thing you tell a 19-year-old just as they're going to have more procedures to obviously have this sort of properly diagnosed. So they never told me, so I was like a rabbit in headlights really. Now they knew something was up, so they kind of had a general idea of what it was going to be really. So on the Friday, a bit nervous for endoscopy. You know, I've always had a fear of needles, so obviously blood tests, anything that has involved a needle gets me a little bit nervous anyway. So, you know, I was a bit nervous for that, a bit apprehensive, but I went to Nuffield Health and I had that done. So I remember I went just with my dad in the morning. We didn't think it was going to be major at all, so just went with my dad and we sat there and they put the needle in, the cannula. So then they wheeled me into the theatre room, if you like. And my surgeon, Dip, he's such a lovely man. He said to me, he said night night, and then he injected some pethidine into me. Now pethidine just like knocks you out, drugs you up, so it basically allows them to be able to put an endoscopy down your throat, obviously into your stomach. Now he did that and he could obviously see a big tumour. Now obviously I had no idea what was going on. I was sort of laying there, sort of like that, on the side, sort of drugged out my mind, just sort of letting them sort of do what they had to do. So all those nurses could obviously see what was on the screens and they knew that my body wasn't in the correct condition. So they're all sort of holding my hand, comforting me, because the experience wasn't nice anyway. But you know, you just had to make do with the situation that I was in. So I'd come out of the endoscopy and I was sitting in the waiting room and just sort of waiting for my dad. And I remember just sort of being drugged, just sort of out of my mind, not really sure what's going on. And then my dad sort of appears, just all sort of teary-eyed, not necessarily teary-eyed, but he was a bit red, and I could kind of tell, even though that I was drugged, that something just really wasn't right. Then he kept disappearing and coming back, and to me that felt like he was gone for like an hour. And then he comes in with a drink of water, and he comes in with teary eyes and he goes, you know, George, everything's going to be alright and we're going to get through this. And I'm thinking, oh my God, what's going on? And I'm still very heavily under these drugs. So my surgeon comes in to then give me sort of the details on what he'd done and what he'd found and what he'd seen. So he sat me down and I was sort of sitting like this. I remember I had a black hoodie on. We were in quite a small room with all the hospital bed and everything. And he looked me in the eyes and he said to me, George, you have a very big tumour inside your stomach. And sort of at that stage, I just remember, I looked him in the eyes and I said, am I gonna die? And then he sat there, he looked at me and he laughed at me, and that kind of made me feel a little bit better about myself. And he said, George, lots of people have cancer these days, but not all of them die. He said, you know, I will do my very utmost to make sure that that doesn't happen. So after that, we'd just been broken this news. My sister was supposed to find out the results from the endoscopy straight away, but obviously since we'd been told this, we obviously hadn't called her because we were talking to my surgeon about, you know, what he'd seen and that kind of thing. So I think she got a bit nervous, so she proceeded to drive down to Nuffield Health because she doesn't live very far away. So she had driven down there, and sort of we'd walked out, and me and my dad were both just in tears, absolute in tears. And then my sister saw us, and she obviously could tell we're in tears, something's really not right here. So then I said to her, obviously what had happened, and I have a big tumour inside my stomach. And it was just like a train hit me, like I can't, that day was just a blur. It was a blur, but it's a blur that I can still remember and recite, if that kind of makes any sense at all. So after that, we had decided, my dad and I and my sister, to go back home, and we'd got everyone back from work. So my brother had come from work, my sister's husband had come from work, my girlfriend had come from work, and my mum was at home anyway. They all had no idea. So we'd called everyone home. So obviously they were a bit confused as to why we'd called everyone home. You know, it's not a normal thing to call everyone home on a work day. It's slightly alarming. So now, driving home from Nuffield, that felt like the longest journey of my life. I mean, it felt like it took 5, 6, 7, 8, maybe even 9 hours long. I think I was just trying to process what my surgeon had said to me. I think it's not something you can truly process yourself straight away. It takes a lot of time to sort of deal with in your own head. I mean, everybody else, I'm sure every cancer patient will say this, when you're diagnosed, it's so much worse for your family. To see your family like that breaks my heart to this day. I mean, if that was one thing I could take away, I would take away the pain from my family. It wouldn't be from me, I can deal with that. But it's the fact that I can do anything to help them. All they wanted to do was help me, but they also couldn't do anything. So it was just, I don't think it's something you really understand truly until that's the situation that you've been in. And I really hope, for anybody's sake, that it's not a situation that you will ever be in. Because it isn't nice. But there are some good sides to cancer, which will be spoke about in another video, I promise. Okay, it's not all doom and gloom, it really isn't, okay? So, after that journey, which felt like it took forever, we'd got home. Now, as we got home, everybody was home already, so my brother was at my house, my girlfriend, my mum, my sister's husband. Now, as I walked through the door, I think my mum was a bit confused to why everybody was at the house. All we had said to everybody was, meet us at home, you know, we've got some stuff to tell you. So as far as everybody knows, they don't really have a clue. I'm sure they know that it's not good news, because we wouldn't call everybody together for good news. But obviously thoughts were flicking around their brains as to what possibly could have been the problem. So what had happened was, when I walked through the door, I'd seen my mum first, and she could see in my eyes that I was just absolutely taken back by whatever I had been told. So I looked my mum in the eyes and I said to her, I've got a big tumour inside my stomach. And she just looked at me, and she just walked up to me and she put her arms around me, and we just both like sat in tears, just crying our eyes out. Now, it wasn't particularly a lot what we could do at the time, but it's getting that emotion out at the start, which is really, really important. To sort of, you need to let out your feelings, let out what's going on around you, because if you bottle things up, it will just make things so much worse. So make sure that you speak to people about things, what's going through your head, how you're feeling, because that really does make an impact on your daily life. You know, if you're constantly not telling anybody how you feel, it will just ruin your day-to-day life. You won't be able to function properly, you won't tell anybody anything, you'll lose friends. You need to just tell everybody how you're feeling. That's so important, and everybody needs everybody. So we all need to help each other in times like this. It's really, really important. So that just about concludes today's video. I've really tried to condense it. I have left some little bits out just to try and shorten the video a little bit. If you want to hear more like that, more stories, I've got loads of stories like that. So if you want to hear some more of that kind of thing, if you could just like the video, that would really mean a lot, just to show that you like it. Comment what kind of thing you want me to do next, and I'll take them all into consideration. So like, comment and subscribe, and thank you very much for watching.